What is up, everybody? Ryan from Sports Card Radio, sitting out here on a sunny Wednesday afternoon. Going to talk about the Blowout sports card hack. That is not a new story, actually, in the sports card world, but has gained attention this week as more collectors have become aware of the situation. Back on actually April 25th, a really great website, Sports Collectors Daily, published an article describing the hack in detail and Blowout's initial response to this. Basically from January, sometime in January, I guess they don't know, through April 20th of this year, anyone who used a credit or debit card on Blowout sports cards, you probably 100% got your name, address, email address, phone number, credit or debit card number, card expiration date, card verification number. All of those were straight gonski because of a vulnerability in the Blowout Sports Cards online shopping cart. Blowout's Sports Cards response to this was they claimed they sent an email out to all the impacted customers. They did not send an email out to every one of their customers, but they said they contacted all the people they thought were impacted. They also put a small text link in the announcement section on their homepage. And there was also a thread not started by somebody at Blowout, but by a customer who was noticing some fraudulent charges on his credit card and thought it was coming from the purchases he made at Blowout. He started a thread kind of buried deep. I actually challenge you to find that thread on the Blowout Sports Card Forum. Go try to find this thread that even the owner of the company mentions on my own site weeks later after this hack happened. So really, Blowout Sports Cards did the minimum here. None of the owners of the company, and there are several, came out publicly, maybe with a video statement or a personal note, maybe from an owner of the company explaining the hack and the details of the hack and how apologetic. If you read the initial announcement and the announcement they still have up and reference, it looks like something, and I actually have experience with this, it looks like something copy and pasted right off the LegalZoom website. I just had to use LegalZoom to set up another business that I had, and I figured I would just use them because some of the forms and paperwork you have to fill out for an LLC is just tedious and complicated, and especially out here in California, there's a lot of rules and regulations. I'd rather have somebody do that for me since I have a lot going on right now. And, it literally, Blowout Sports Cards, it looked like they Googled, we got hacked, template or something, and they just copied and pasted this thing. But within this forum thread on Blowout Sports Cards about the attack on their website, and again, I challenge you to go to Blowout Sports Cards and find this thread, but within it, there were customers, several, I would describe as lots of customers, chiming in that, hey, my credit card got hit for, $100 at this website, or my credit card got hit for $3,000 at this website. One collector did say he got hit for $30,000 in online charges to AT&T, and another collector even came in and said he got hit for $20,000 in charges on various websites. So people were getting impacted by this, and the dollars and the people impacted were starting to rack up. And again, the response from Blowout was very tempered, was very minimalist, the very minimal that they can do. We've seen other companies in the past get hacked. I'm sure if we've used credit or debit cards to any extent, we've had fraudulent charges showed up. There was high-profile attack on Target stores about a year and a half, 2 years ago. Yahoo's been hacked, and pretty much anybody who's in that space is hacked. It's one of the huge risks when you take into account, an e-commerce site or point of sale, any kind of point of sale large, and the larger you are, the bigger target, no pun intended, you are. But that's part of the risk, and that's something you have to take into account. We'll talk about a little bit more in the show about what Blowout Sports Cards maybe should have done here, but it's a huge risk, and the best thing to do is to get out in front of it, get your face out in front of this, and apologize. Because, again, most people have experienced, their information getting stolen in one way or another. It's not something that is a very new thing. It's not a deal breaker. Look at, while Target, may have their own set of challenges from a business perspective, you could theoretically say they have rebounded from this hack that occurred at their stores. And I believe there's been other high-profile, kind of large retailers that have been hacked that have been able to bounce back. And a lot of that might be due to the response the company had, or again, time heals all wounds, and maybe that's what Blowout was hoping here, that this would all blow over and they wouldn't have to get out and make much of a public response about this. And if you think about it, theoretically, they were given a long time here to respond by the various people around the sports card world who may call attention to something like this. Again, Sports Collectors Daily did an article about 1 or 2 days after the Blowout announced the hack. I couldn't really notice much else around the web. I didn't look too deep about any other discussions going on about this. But the more I kept reading the Blowout forum, again, that I challenge you to find this thread to go there and try to find this thread on your own. It's very hard to find, but the more I kept reading it, it was about 10, 11 pages deep. Especially toward the end, people were getting increasingly frustrated that Blowout wasn't providing enough information about the hack, that they weren't coming in and updating people about some very key things that Blowout Sports Card there was hacked for 4 months of time. What was going on during those 4 months of time? Why wasn't their website being monitored, especially a large e-commerce site like that? Why wasn't that being monitored, and what was going on there? What are the steps after you discover this hack? You're still using the same website. You're still theoretically using the same shopping cart technology, probably some kind of third-party technology, open source technology. How are you closing the vulnerability on your website? There was really no, they said that they were going to look into it and, quote, hire a security firm. Again, something that looked like it was copy and pasted off of LegalZoom's website. But what are the real tangible things that you're going to be doing? And it just, collectors seemed frustrated. And anytime that collectors seem frustrated, that's when I feel like I have to jump in and do something. And so I figured I would just write another article and, reference that Sports Collectors Daily had written this article a couple weeks ago, and here's some of the things that has transpired since then. Basically, just try to continue the story from the initial, one that Sports Collectors Daily wrote. That hey, here's what happened. Here's Blowout's response, and here's what you could do if you think you might be impacted. I basically took it a step further and kind of curated some of the responses that were going on in that, again, very buried thread on the Blowout forum, and what collectors were saying, how much money that had supposedly been, fraudulently charged to their credit cards, and just try to give a overall kind of view of what had happened, transpired since the Sports Collectors Daily article in April. And, I want to make something very clear, and I freely admit this. One of my biggest inspirations when I'm writing articles, especially something like that, when somebody gets hacked or Mike Smith, threatens to kill 3 people, the first website I'm actually going for inspiration is TMZ. I literally will take almost lines from TMZ and reword them into a sports card context, or to try to frame the article in a TMZ style, which is much different than when I first started setting up websites almost 10 years ago, to where you'd want to write these long content and you want to try to be picked up in search engines and you're trying to rank in Google and you're trying to do all these things. Things has much changed. People don't like to read as much. Twitter and Facebook and these social sites have become really popular because, they're very quick snippets of information. It's a picture with a caption. It's a GIF. It's a meme. It's these things that, it's 140 characters. So on TMZ, they never have really long posts. It's just sentence, video, boom, done, and then you're done. A lot of times it's under 200, to 500 words at most. So that is really my inspiration when I'm writing something on Sports Card Radio. I'm not trying to be, Walter Cronkite. I'm not trying to be Beckett. I'm not trying to be Cardboard Connection. I'm not trying to be anybody else. I'm trying to actually mimic TMZ. And so I wrote, the professional article about this had already been written by Sports Collectors Daily. You can go read it for yourself. It's linked to actually in the second sentence of my article. I say, hey, here's an article from Sports Collectors Daily that is very professionally written, that lays out what happened, that lays out the response by Blowout and links to those things, and lays it out in a very professional manner. I certainly didn't need to copy and paste that. I certainly didn't need to mimic that in any kind of way. I felt like I wanted to do kind of a TMZ style, hey, Blowout sports cards got hacked. So I did that. I kind of mimicked a TMZ style article. Blowout sports cards hacked. One collector got hit for $30,000. Company response has been weak so far. I did even a video on YouTube. I figured, hit all the channels with this, because what I discovered pretty early on, that, a lot of collectors had not heard about this, that despite, Blowout Cards thinking they had, contacted anyone who might have been impacted, a lot of people, kind of their general customer base, had really not heard about this. In fact, for people interested in website stats, Sports Card Radio hit an all-time record the day I put the article up. Sports Card, as I get an Upper Deck E-Pack trade offer that I want to look at, Sports Card Radio hit an all-time record traffic day, the day I put the article up. Well, the next day, it actually doubled the record. Most of that traffic actually was from Facebook, amazingly. So obviously some people, now they may have been posting that, look at this jerk posting this article about Blowout, but that's fine with me. Again, I'm trying to mimic TMZ. I'm not trying to mimic, anything that Sports Collectors Daily did in their very professional article that I suggest you go read about the Blowout sports card hack. I'm not trying to mimic anything that is seen on Beckett or Cardboard Connection or some of these other sites that maybe you're familiar with and that maybe all kind of blend in and look the same. I'm trying to be different. I'm trying to look as though you're coming to tmzsportscards.com. So I, created, what I thought was a short and to the point article, TMZ style, and traffic to this website blew up. And I knew probably I was going to get a response from somebody, either fanboys or maybe even somebody from Blowout Sports Cards themselves, and sure enough, that's exactly what happened. So Tom Fish, the owner of Blowout Sports Cards, sure enough came in with a comment, not only on the article I wrote, but also on the YouTube video that was posted. He says, and I'll read the whole thing, "Good evening, Ryan. Appreciate your efforts to keep collectors informed." And so the rest is going to be bad when, he starts off trying to, ass slap me, and I know that's all bullshit. We'll talk about Tom Fish here in a little bit and what a kind of phony this guy is. "Perhaps you could have contacted us before publishing." I'll take this actually sentence by sentence and address this. First of all, I've posted several videos from the National about Blowout sports cards, just going over their table. Some of those have over 7,000 views themselves, and while that's not a lot of views in the context of a YouTube video, and I have videos in other niches that go higher than that, in the sports card context, that's actually a lot of views. If you can get to over 1,000 or to 10,000, that's pretty good for a video about a sports card, and it's very targeted and niche. The people who are watching a sports card video on YouTube have some interest, could be potential customers. This is free promotion that I'm doing for Blowout sports cards. So, he says in this first sentence of the comment that he left me, "Appreciate your efforts to keep collectors informed. Perhaps you could have contacted us before publishing." Well, I didn't contact you before I published those positive videos that I posted on YouTube. I don't contact you before I mention you on this podcast that I bought boxes from you. I didn't contact you before I put on actually the most trafficked page on Sports Card Radio, the wholesale distributor list, that you're on there with a link to your website saying this is somebody you could go to if you need boxes of cards. I don't contact you when I post positive stories about you. So why would I contact you if I post something negative? Think about that. Why would I don't contact you when I post something positive, so why would I contact you if I post something negative? To me, that doesn't make sense. Like, just because the content is negative about you doesn't mean I should contact you. At least not in my eyes. Again, I'm trying to run a site like TMZ, not like Beckett or the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times. I'm trying to be like TMZ. I freely admit that. His next sentence, again, you know when the first sentence is, I appreciate your efforts to keep collectors informed. You know the rest is going to be, he's going to try to come in here and butt fuck me. More accurate information would have been appropriate and could have been provided. Okay, we'll see what his rationale to that. A full notice that was sent to customers potentially effective can be found here. Again, he links to that. I linked to that already in the article. That was already there. Their response was linked already. So I don't know how sharp this Tom Fish guy is when he can't even read and click on the article he's responding to. You fucking idiot. He also says there's a forum thread, 11 pages to date, where collectors are welcome to post and found here. Again, this was posted by somebody else. This forum thread was started by a member named Force Change 77, who noticed some credit card problems on his card, actually before Blowout announced they had been hacked. So on 4/19, Blowout did not start a thread in their forum announcing they had got hacked. It was somebody else. So he links me to that. He says I could go to that. Again, that was linked also in the article. You fucking dumbass. That was already linked in my article. You fucking idiot. So when he says more accurate information would have been appropriate and could have been provided, and then he posts two links that were already in the article. Astonishing. In the article that I posted, I mentioned that one collector from that forum thread had actually gotten banned because he had complained several times very loudly in the thread. And Tom Fish says no one was banned for complaining about the hack. Well, yes, they were. I went back and linked to that. Forum moderator Houdini. Boy, what a name that is when, the company gets hacked and they have a forum moderator named Houdini. Maybe I'd look at this guy first. He says, Naxcom seller has been banned. This is from the thread. I would have banned him a while ago just for making those false claims in this thread. Okay, this is interesting. This whole sentence is interesting. We'll break this down. I would have banned him a while ago just for making those false claims in this thread, but Blowout requested I not do anything until they were able to handle everything on their end. Semicolon. However, he has multiple accounts, and that makes it simple enough as a violation of the terms of users, which is, I guess, is Rule 15, don't create additional accounts. So, this person, Houdini, claims that Naxcom seller, and I read all of Naxcom seller's claims in the thread. He says he would have banned him a while ago just for making false claims in this thread. How does Houdini know what the false claims are? And I guess that's very interesting. Do forum moderators, are they able to access your order history? Are forum moderators able to access maybe what your credit card details are? How does he know that Naxcom seller was making false claims? Naxcom seller said even in one comment that he had bounced a $6,000 check to the IRS because of his credit card had gotten or his debit card had gotten hit by Blowout, which then started bouncing checks that he had written because his account was overdrawn. How would Houdini know that was a lie? How would Houdini know what Naxcom seller ordered or not? And if he can't access that information, he says, again, Houdini says, I would have banned him a while ago for making those false claims in this thread, but Blowout requested I not do anything. So is Blowout telling him what this guy's ordered? Like, no, don't worry, that guy's never ordered anything from us, don't worry. Well, so why are they sharing that information with some kind of forum moderator? Your order information and obviously your credit card information should be held very securely and should be, and from an e-commerce perspective, from a sports card e-commerce perspective, should be treated like medical information, like HIPAA. Like when I worked at a medical office, we couldn't use full names. We had to use initials, and we couldn't describe people's care plans out in open public. And you had to be very, very careful about that. And I got reprimanded many times for mistakes I made in that regard. Very strongly reprimanded in some instances. So this is very interesting. So Tom Fish, again, he says in a comment on my article that no one was banned for complaining about, he says bout, he doesn't use it, but he says bout hack, bout quote hack. Yes, they were. Yes, he was. If Naxcom seller had not posted in that thread, he would have not been banned. So because he posted in that thread, regardless what the comments were, he was banned. So he was banned for complaining about the hacks. So again, another misstatement by Tom Fish. Please feel free to email me. He lists his email. So if you want to email him, go ahead and take that. I'm available to answer any questions you may have, and I'm available, blah, 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 and can answer. So that's what he put. He says I should have contacted him first. Again, I don't contact you when I post something of you that's positive, so I'm not going to contact you if I post something that's negative. Period. And you don't, when I post something positive about you, like those videos on YouTube, why don't you contact me then? You don't. Okay, thank you. Next, he says more accurate information could have provided, and then he provides a link to their announcement. Again, that was already in the article. He says link to the forum thread. Again, that was already in the article. So he clearly just didn't like what was written. And it's funny that in that forum thread that he references, Tom Fish never personally comes in there and says, please feel free to email me, fish@blowoutcards.com. Why doesn't he do that on his own forum and to his own collectors? But because he got blown up TMZ style, he's got to come in here and try to save face. And try to say, oh, Beckett would have contacted me, or Cardboard Connection would have contacted me. You should have contacted me. Why the fuck would I contact you? Another thing we should point out, and could have been a source of contention for Mr. Tom Fish. I last saw him in January, presumably around the very day his website started to get hacked, at the Topps 65th anniversary party. And he had 18 bracelets, invites to that party, where there were only 65 total invites given away. I had one. Tom Fish had 18 of the 65 on his wrist. He paid about $3,000 each for those. $3,000 each. Not only what it cost to get to Vegas and do all the hubbub. Now, as I did, he probably actually came up on that trip because of all the goodies that Topps had and all the good stuff that he won. He ended up with scores of Chris Bryant autographs. I mean, I have that on video of him signing all those cards. That's actually when Topps asked me to stop filming, is when I was filming when Chris Bryant was signing his cards for Tom Fish. This is a guy who's used to getting special treatment in the sports card world. He's used to getting special treatment from Topps. He's maybe used to getting special treatments from some of these other bloggers who will contact him before posting anything negative about him. This motherfucker had $50,000 worth of invites on his wrist. Don't you think that would have paid for a really good e-commerce security team? Don't you think that would buy the latest and greatest shopping cart that probably wouldn't be subject to vulnerabilities? Don't you think that would buy some kind of tripwire or something that when code was changed in your website that you would get notified? That $50,000 might buy something that even if you got hacked by Russia would tip you off and let you know? Don't you think $50,000 could buy that? I think $50,000 could buy that. $50,000 could buy a lot, especially on the internet. I've made hundreds of thousands of dollars on sports card radio and never have spent close to $50,000 on this website. Ever. Another point I want to make. This would be one thing if this was kind of a one-off thing. The Topps website had just gotten hacked 2 or 3 months, or Topps discovered that they had been hacked just 2 or 3 months prior to Blowout getting hacked. If you're running an e-commerce website in the sports card space and you notice Topps got hacked, the target's now on your back. because now that Topps has closed that vulnerability, they're not going to come back and hit Topps. But they're going to be like, these sports card guys are idiots. Boy, the biggest company didn't have protection. I bet all these other idiots don't have any protection up. So Blowout, DA, Steel City, check out my cards. All potential targets, and on down the line to use smaller group breaks. They'll just keep going down the line until they milk this entire industry dry. They started with Topps. They went to Blowout. I guarantee they've tried to get into DA, and they've tried to get into check out my cards, and they try to get into anybody with any kind of size and scale in this industry, and they'll work their way down. Getting hacked is not the end of the world. Getting hacked happens. Even if maybe you have spent the money and you have spent the time and you have put the hours in to hire people, you can still get hacked. We've seen it happen to, the government. We've seen it happen to a lot of people. It's how you respond. And by responding by sending out an email to those that you thought were impacted, but maybe you didn't get it to everybody. Maybe you should have sent an email to everybody. And instead of just putting one little link on your homepage, maybe that needs to be a ribbon sticky to the top of every page. Or maybe Tom Fish, instead of buying 18 wristbands to the Topps party, could have come out with a personal video and said, hey guys, I'm really sorry. Sorry about this happened. We're gonna do everything to make this right. And here's what we're going to do in the future to fix this website and make it more secure and gain your trust back. You think I would have wrote an article TMZ style blowing them up on my website 2 weeks after this had first been reported? Of course not. I would have just let it blown over. But because there was a perception, again, you can go try to find this thread, or I link to it in the article, regardless of what the owner of the Blowout thinks. It was already linked to in the article. You can go read the frustration from his very own customers. Why doesn't he respond to them? So these are all questions that should be answered and looked into. And you can make your decision if you want to, whether or not you want to whether or not you want to order with Blowout Sports Cards. I don't really care. And even you got to be really careful when you come comment me on Facebook and you come comment me on my own website. You're stepping into my house, so don't expect the response to be very kind in most instances. In my response to Tom Fish, I mentioned that what he said was not accurate. I mentioned that there was a collector who says his card was compromised but did not receive an email from Blowout. I mentioned that. I say that user Naxcom Seller was banned as a result of the comments he made in the thread, period. Whether or not those comments were accurate or how a forum moderator can determine if those comments were accurate doesn't matter. If he had not posted in that thread, he would not have been banned. So he posted in that thread and got banned. Period. End of story. And at that moment, you should be treating every customer with kid gloves. Every customer should be right. Every customer should be getting massaged, even if they're blowing you up. And yes, Naxcom Seller was blowing them up in that thread. But if you had your information stolen, and if 10% of what Naxcom Seller was saying was true, I would be angry too. So I mentioned that to Tom Fish, and I said, after promoting your site many times for free at the National, I have no choice but to react quickly as possible. My reputation is on the line. I've promoted Blowout Sports Cards. I've told people to go to Blowout Sports Cards. I've told people I've bought at Blowout Sports Cards. I've told people to go buy at Blowout Sports Cards. I've given them positive treatment. So I told Tom Fish, I could honestly care less about you. I don't want to be seen as promoting a website like Blowout that for 4 months didn't notice what should have been an easy breach to catch. In light of what happened with Topps just a few months earlier, there really isn't a valid excuse. The wristbands you had, Tom Fish, had at the Tops party, I was there, would have paid for a decent web security outfit. Period. So this is one thing you have to do. You guys who have high-profile websites, and when you're out kind of parading around in Vegas, eyes are on you. People are watching you. People are watching you. I don't care if people come to my website. It's great that I got an all-time record and then the next day doubled it. I'm a top seller of tickets on StubHub. I just hired somebody and opened an office, and we're sitting here grinding every day on different websites. Okay, not related to sports cards. Nothing to do with sports cards. This isn't my business. For 2 weeks, this story was out. For 2 weeks, you could have done a personal video and said, I'm sorry, guys. And you could have kept chiming in on that forum thread and making things right with your customers and talking to them, communicating them. You had 2 weeks. More than enough time. And no, I will never, ever, ever contact you if I post something positive or negative on my sites, on YouTube, on this podcast, ever, period. A collector chimed in on the thread on the article on Sports Card Radio. Robert Parsons says, I was impacted by this, but you are making this out to be completely negligent, and it's certainly not. I saw the notice on the top of the website, in the forums, and in the email that was sent out. I had to cancel a credit card, and surprisingly, my life has gone on. Imagine that. It's a crappy situation, but I do not feel that Blowout tried to hide from this in any way, shape, or form. They are not the first nor the last company that will have this happen. Shit happens. That's his words. That is the reality of the world. And I've mentioned this actually in this podcast, how, they've had this happens to other companies. People are very accepting of this. So I would actually agree with everything he says. Here's where he makes mistakes. Here's where you guys have to worry about, telling people what to do. He says, even Blowout's response to this was professional, while your response to them was childlike. So my response to him was, Blowout has to be professional. They have your credit card information. They need your money. When have I asked you for money? When have I asked you for your credit card information? When have I claimed to be professional? I'm mimicking my site after TMZ. I go to TMZ for inspiration on how to write an article. I'm not a writer. I hate writing. I hate typing. Sports Card Radio is known because I copied and pasted checklists that were easily found on other websites, on the Topps website, on a distributor website, on Panini's website, and put it on my own. Okay? Not breaking news articles. So when something happens like this, I go straight to TMZ and get inspiration. I don't have to be professional. I don't want to be professional. And this person, and I told this person, Robert Parsons, I impacted your life enough to get you to click and leave a comment. So I think I did my job. And I suggested that he stick to his own field. I apologize that he got hacked. That sucks. And hey, if you don't care that you got hacked or not, I don't care. Blowout has to be professional. They have your credit card information. They blast you 20 times a week with emails. They tweet probably 40 times a day. They probably put 40 things on Facebook per day. Go look at my output. How many times have I emailed you asking for money? How many times have I tweeted you asking for money? How many times have I tweeted... Paul Arnold comes in, another fanboy. I don't know where these fanboys are coming. Yes, very tough to get people to click on links and respond to the internet. Huge impact on people's lives. I don't really know what he's trying to be sarcastic or cute or funny. And so again, he clicked, this Paul Arnold guy, another different guy, clicked, left a comment. I did not click on or comment on your site today. I'm doing my job. Professional has nothing to do with my job with Sports Card Radio, period. It does, however, have everything to do with Blowout Sports Cards job. They need to be professional. They need to take care. They have your information. Sports Card Radio has been hacked before. have had the site taken offline by people. Usually they actually they kind of hack a vulnerability in kind of the overall program that you're using, like Joomla or WordPress or a plugin or something. They kind of hack that, and then it just basically hacks all the sites that are basically using that vulnerable thing. And so that'll happen. But guess what? I don't have your credit card information. I don't have anything stored about you on my website. At best, this Robert Parsons person, maybe there's an email stored in some file somewhere. Maybe your email. That's if you leave a comment. If you just come read Sports Card Radio, there's no way for me to get your information. Blowout has to be professional. They want your money. Go count how many emails they've sent you in the last 6 months compared to mine. Go look at their tweets compared to mine. Go look at their Facebook post compared to mine. They have to be professional. And they were given 2 weeks. 2 weeks to respond. Where was Tom Fish's personal response on his website, in an email, in that forum thread? Why did he personally respond to me? Why didn't he reach out to me when I posted positive things about him, about his table at the National, when I mentioned him on this podcast? Why didn't he reach out to me then? That's perhaps a good tip to you business owners out there, you guys who may be in a vulnerable spot or who don't want to end up on the front pages of TMZSportsCards.com, aka Sports Card Radio. You think if Check Out My Cards, the same thing happened to Check Out My Cards, you think I would have blown him up like that? TMZ style? Wouldn't I have reached out to him? Because we have a personal relationship and we've actually talked about other stuff a lot, oftentimes not cards. If Check Out My Cards would get hacked, I would email the owner because we have a personal relationship. He's reached out to me. He's emailed me. He's seen the positive content I've done and has reached out to me. I do a lot of positive content about a wide range of companies. Perhaps the one you work for, the one you own. Don't reach out to people when something negative happens. Reach out to them when they do something positive about your company or your business. That's how you create a relationship. When you saw me at the top 65th anniversary, come up and stick your hand out. Don't come up to me and say, who's tweeting? That was the only interaction I had with Tom Fish at the 65th anniversary party. He noticed that I had actually tweeted about him. And he comes up to my table where I'm sitting with a large group of people, some of which are my friends, and says, who's tweeting? I've never met you. I don't know you. If you walk past me on the street, you wouldn't know who I was or what my name is. Remember, when you run a high-profile business in this very small niche, eyes are on you. When you're at a VIP party that would have cost $3,000 to $5,000 just to get there and get in, that's probably a time to be on your best behavior. If you have one of these sites, if you're one of these high-profile people, because there are going to be people watching you, and there might be high-profile people watching you, or somebody that can blow you up on the internet and make people aware that your website have gotten hacked. Keep those things in mind. Don't expect people to contact you when something is negative written about you. Reach out to them when there are positive things said about you. And you could go back through the history of my YouTube channel, probably these podcasts, maybe even a few articles that I've linked to Blowout that would be seen as positive. That would have been the time to reach out to me. Because then, in this instance, if we had a personal relationship, if you had extended that hand, maybe this wouldn't have happened. I reiterate that if this had happened to Check Out My Cards, I would have reached out to Tim first, the owner of Check Out My Cards. If this had happened to another company that I have a relationship with, I can't think of off the top of my head, maybe some group breakers and stuff, I would go to them first. Wouldn't blow them up, personally. This is a very forgiving community. Many people have been ripped off not only by other collectors, but sometimes by the company themselves. In another kind of big story this week, or quote unquote big story in the sports card world this week, a group breaker was caught switching out cards on camera. This ties into Blowout a little bit. I mean, this group breaker didn't have a website, barely had a presence online, but could somehow sell spots of stuff on a Facebook group. This is how naive, and I'd argue, take no offense to this, or you can if you want, I don't give a fuck. Collectors can be very naive and very fucking stupid. I've been to the National the last 5 years and kind of walked around and talked to some people and looked into these people's eyes. Some of these motherfuckers are pretty fucking naive and pretty fucking stupid. And maybe that's Blowout's thinking here and their kind of lack of response here. They know this. They know that a lot of these motherfuckers who are buying this shit are dumb as shit. And, maybe that's what Blowout was counting on. But again, people like Tom Fish, when you're out strutting around with $50,000 worth of bracelets on your arm, be careful who's watching you. You are being watched. Everybody in this industry, you are being watched. And I am looking for opportunities to blow people up TMZ style on Sports Card Radio. That is the only purpose that website will serve for me besides this podcast for the foreseeable future. And now that we're hitting the National, it's time to ramp up a little bit of the heat. Especially, we could have done an hour-long podcast on the boo-boos and the mistakes that Panini did. I actually did a podcast about a week ago. And there was this screeching dog in the background. And, from one of my stupid neighbors like 3 houses away that somehow got picked up on the mic, and I had to trash it. So that's unfortunate because we got into some of the mistakes Panini has made. Maybe we can come back soon. I got a ton of work to do. I should actually cut this off as soon as possible. I got a ton of work to grind through the rest of the day. And, the person I've hired and just getting that going off the ground. And Amazon's going well. I sell like 10, 20 things a day on Amazon. It's amazing. I've sold like 300 things in the last 30 days. It's amazing. It's great. Thousands of dollars. Profit. So Amazon's going well. eBay is a waste of time. I've sold some things on eBay, but I hate the process of it. I hate responding to people's emails. I hate packing and shipping. Amazon's amazing. I send one box to them and they do it all and stuff sells and I get money. It's great. So, anyways, end of the show, 45 minutes. Think what you want about Blowout. I don't give a fuck, but just bringing this to light since clearly they didn't do a job on their own of making people aware of this.